All right, let's try to answer this question now. We have 5 different gaps here, and we have 10 options, which means we have double the number of options than required to fill the gaps. Of course, some of them will be used and some of them will not be used. Now, how do we answer these questions? There are two things we have to keep in mind. We are looking for a word which is grammatically acceptable choice and also makes sense in the given context. As an example, if you look at this option here, it's telling me that we can be. That means this is something humans can be. So you are looking for a word that humans can be. Logically, that's what you're looking for. And because this word is in a particular position in a sentence, it tells me that it's a place for an adjective. So how do I know that? The first thing that I have noticed here is it is coming after be. It's telling me what we can be. We can be funny, we can be experienced, we can be engaging. So after be, here we need an adjective because it tells what kind of personalities we can have. Then after that, I have to think about the options. Which option gives me that sense, which is in that grammatical form and gives me that sense. So I'm looking for an adjective which we can be, and this adjective is followed by about. And not just that, it gives me the sense that these are people who are looking for word origins and the stories behind something. So that means these are people who are interested to find more information about these things. So if we look at the options, then we can see curious is one such word, because first, curious is an adjective because words ending in OUS are adjectives. That's the first thing. And curious means someone who is interested to learn more about something. And based on these two things, I can see that curious is the answer for the first gap. So curious. Then after that, the second one is saying about word origins and the stories behind the we find in our language. So that means whatever this word is, this is something we can find in the language. Now again, curious is already gone. Now if you look at all the options here and try them one by one, what you can see is structure is the only word that we can find in our language, which makes sense in this context. So looking around the gap, we can get a sense of the context, and we also get a sense of the grammatical form of the word required. And these are the two things we have to keep in mind all the time. In order to do this in the right way, we should make a habit of reading the sentence first so that we know what kind of word we are looking for in terms of the meaning of the word, and then we can also decide which form of the word we require to complete the sentence in a grammatically correct way. So for the second one, I need a noun because it's coming after an article. After article, we use either a noun or an adjective. And this is a word which we can find in our language, which means structure is the answer. That is the most appropriate choice for this gap. Then in a similar fashion, we move on to this next question, which says, but we something a quasi-distest. Now a quasi-distest, you know meaning of distest, it's like the bad test, and quasi means nauseating, something that makes you vomit, that makes you sick. So but we've something a quasi-distest for any change. So the gap here is coming after we, and we is a subject. So that means we are looking for a word after the subject, and usually that's the place for a verb. So what we know about this missing word is it's a verb. Now verbs can be in 5 different forms. So we have to decide which form of verb we are looking for. And if we look at the sentence, it says a quasi-distest for any change that might be happening right under our noses. So it says that might be happening right under our noses means it's a present tense verb. Now we look at the options given and decide which present tense verb will make sense. We have two choices, either experience or expect. And because it's a test is something we experience, because what it's saying is it makes you feel nauseated. So that's a feeling, that's an experience of the test. So that is the answer for this one, experience. Then moving on to the next one, there are even language critics who are that English is dying. So this is their perception, and they are either convinced or persuaded. Now, what is the difference? Convinced is when it happens automatically. That means you become convinced, but you are persuaded by someone. So that means if I need persuaded here, then we'll have something like by someone. But because this sentence does not have anything like that, the only option left which makes sense here is convinced. Let me rephrase this part one more time. Persuaded is, so persuaded is followed by someone. So he was persuaded by his father. But you say, so let's write the complete sentence. He was persuaded by someone. He was convinced. So when you write convinced, you don't have to mention who convinced you. But if you write persuaded, you have to mention who did that, who convinced you. So if the person is specified, you need persuaded. If it's not, then you need convinced. So that's why the answer for this one is convinced. Then the last option is asking us, if not dying, at least being progressively through long years of mistreatment. So what this one is saying is, some people say that English language is dying, or if not dying, at least. That means it's still bad, but not as bad as dying. So we are looking for a negative word, which is similar in meaning to dying, but not as bad as dying. So what could be that word? If we look at all the options here, there are two words which have negative meaning, disturbed and damaged. And if we think about the sense, then we can see damaged makes more sense here, because it says through long years of mistreatment. So if you are mistreating something, it's more likely to be damaged. So that would be the answer for this one. All right, so these are the answers of some of the questions that I had asked you last time. Moving forward, I'll be asking you many such questions, and if you want me to provide you a detailed feedback on your performance, or if you want me to explain the answers of such questions, please write in the comments every time I post a new question. Until my next question, have a good time.